Hey. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to this meeting of the Senate Committee on Education. I'm Senator Angie Taylor, and I have the honor of leading us through this meeting on today. So we will start with our roll call. Madam Secretary.
Senator Buck. Senator Cruz Crawford. Senator Doniate. Senator Dondero Loop. Senator Rogish. Senator Titus. Chair Taylor.
And I am present. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here in Carson City, and we have people in Las Vegas, and we may have some folks on the phone line as well. My understanding is, as well as we have a Spanish language interpreter in Las Vegas, so we want to make sure that we have ample time for that interpretation to go forward as necessary, because we certainly don't want to leave people behind. We have two bills that we're going to hear today, Assembly Bill 205 and Assembly Bill 420. And we will start with Assembly Bill 420. So, Assembly Member, you can please come forward if you'd like. I mean 205. Sorry. My bad. 205. Right. I'm running. 205. And then, but I'll continue on. This is our meeting. As we begin, we will have public comment at the end of our meeting. And for that number, for those who may want to call in, 888-475-4499. The meeting ID for this meeting is 8762-5085-947. That's for public comment at the end, or if you'd like to testify during the hearing. We know these bills have quite a bit of interest, so we are going to limit the time for support, for opposition, and for neutral testimony, 20 minutes each total, and we will jump from Carson to Vegas to phone to Carson until we're finished with 20 minutes on all sides of the issue for both bills. And when you comment, please, 2 minutes, just 2 minutes on your comment, and you can always use a very good ditto. We accept that as well. And if you don't have a chance to get all your comments in, you can always send them to the secretary, and then she will make sure that members of the committee get them. If you plan to testify or present, and you haven't done so, please make sure you sign in over at the door and give your business card to the staff, and we want to make sure that we have record of who's here. Additionally, when you speak, for those of you who may not have done this before, please make sure you state your name, your first and last name for the record, and then spell your last name so we make sure we have accurate records. And then every time you speak, we'll remind you to say your name if you forget to do so. And don't worry, a lot of people do it, so it's no big deal. And then finally, you will see, silence your electronic devices. Forgot to say that first. And then you'll also see that we all have electronic devices in front of us. Please don't take that as a sign of inattention or disrespect, but we have exhibits and notes and so on in front of us that we often refer to. So that being said, Assembly Member Golding is here before us. Assembly Bill 205 revises provisions governing sexual education, and we have 15 minutes for the presentation. So, Assembly members, start when you are ready. And welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Heather Goulding. I represent Assembly District 27. And it is truly an honor to appear before you today to present Assembly Bill 205. I'm joined today by Dr. Sandy Koch, a member of the Nevada section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or ACOG. This legislation was brought to me by ACOG physicians who are committed to improving health education for Nevada's youth. AB 205 is a focused, narrowly tailored bill that proposes a simple but meaningful change to Nevada statute. It shifts Nevada's human sexual health education policy from an opt-in to an opt-out model. This change preserves parental rights while reducing unnecessary administrative burdens on families and educators, and makes sure that students aren't excluded from critical learning because permission slips are lost in backpacks or in the bustle of family life. Currently, Nevada is one of just 5 states that requires parents to affirmatively opt in for their children to participate in sexual health education. Under AB 205, students will participate in these health lessons as they do for other science and health curriculum, unless their parents opt their children out. Parents retain the right to exclude their children from the lessons at any time. Each year, schools will be required to notify parents of the curriculum and of their right to withdraw their child at any time. Today, approximately 93% of Nevada's parents choose to enroll their children in human sexual health instruction. About 2% actively opt out. And importantly, 5% of families fail to respond, resulting in those students missing critical knowledge. The consequence of maintaining the status quo is clear. Students, particularly the most vulnerable, students with disengaged parents, are at a higher risk of suffering the consequences of engaging in risky behavior, simply because their parents didn't return a permission slip. AB 205 addresses this gap without diminishing parental authority. AB 205 will reduce the burden on families. Most parents support sex ed. An opt-out model eliminates unnecessary paperwork for over 93% of families. It reduces the burden on educators. Teachers, already stretched thin, are currently responsible for collecting permission slips. AB 205 frees up teachers' time and resources. But of far greater importance is that AB 205 improves health outcomes. Sexual health education helps reduce teen pregnancies, prevent sexually transmitted infections, and supports the development of healthy relationships. AB 205 makes sure that students aren't excluded from this critical education just because the permission slip was lost. To parents who choose to opt out, I see you, I hear you, and I respect and value your involvement in your children's education. AB 205 protects your right to make that decision. In fact, it strengthens your oversight by ensuring that you are notified annually of the curriculum and your ability to opt out at any point during the school year. In 2017, Governor Sandoval vetoed a similar bill, citing concerns that parents must have the ability to make a choice more than once in their K-12 experience. And AB 205 addresses this concern by directly requiring annual notification. And this bill follows an evidence-based approach. A meta-analysis of the University of Texas Health Science Center found that opt-in models, like Nevada's current policy, disproportionately exclude students not because of parental objection, but because of logistical barriers. These students, those parents who didn't sign a form, are often at greater risk for poor health outcomes. I'd like to take a moment to share how my personal feelings about this matter have evolved over the past several weeks. When Doctors Koch and McFerrin first approached me, we discussed Nevada's high rates of teen pregnancy and STIs, including syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. We discussed Nevada's teen pregnancy rates and the consequences of teens' high-risk behaviors. But over many personal conversations with constituents about the bill, I've come to an understanding about another deeply concerning reason why this bill is urgently needed. Human sexual health education also protects children from sexual abuse. Nevada's 4th and 5th grade curriculum teaches students the correct names for reproductive body parts and about bodily autonomy, tools that can empower them to recognize and report abuse. I've heard absolutely heartbreaking stories from adults who wish they'd had this education as children, who didn't have the words or understanding to explain to adults around them that they were being touched inappropriately. Sexual health education teaches children the proper names of body parts, so when they talk to adults, adults understand them. It teaches children that it is their right not to be touched by others. And it teaches children how to reach out to trusted adults to help them if they are inappropriately touched. More children in Nevada will be protected if AB 205 becomes law. Some opponents argue that this bill represents a shift in parental power, and I respectfully, very respectfully disagree. AB 205 does not change any parental rights. All parents will continue to receive notification and maintain the ability to withdraw their child at any time. This bill simply ensures that the burden doesn't fall unfairly on the 93% of families who support this instruction. Now, Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to turn the presentation over to Dr. Sandra Koch.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and members of the Senate Committee on Education. My name is Dr. Sandra Koch, spelled K-O-C-H. I am an OBGYN and have lived and practiced in Carson City since 1990. The Nevada section of the American College of OBGYNs believes that every child in Nevada should have the opportunity to receive protective health information. And yet, because of our current opt-in system, thousands of our students are prevented from receiving this education. As you mentioned, there are 5 states where access to sexual health information requires a parental signature. We would very much like to remove Nevada from that short list. This is why we approached Assemblymember Goulding and asked if she would bring this bill forward. ACOG believes that when it comes to sex and sexual responsibility, parents should be the first source of information, and that access to scientifically based, accurate information on sexual health should be offered to all youth. ACOG supports Nevada's system of parents and community members on committees that review curriculum materials. We support that the final decision rests with the District Board of Trustees. We fully support the notification that AB 205 contains for parents and their right to opt their children out. The American College of OBGYN is joined by the American Academy of Pediatrics, who emphasize the importance of teaching bodily autonomy in order to prevent sexual abuse. Knowledge is power. Children need to be equipped with tools that can help them to avoid being victims of child abuse, grooming, internet blackmail, sexting, unplanned pregnancy, sex trafficking, and sexually transmitted diseases. They need to know how to ask for help and who to reach out to if they're being victimized or are in trouble. Please allow me to suggest that the parents of children who opt their children out of receiving sexual education do so because they are actively involved in raising their children and will provide accurate, scientifically based education for their children. Their children already know where to turn for guidance and support, their parents. The data we have suggests that about 2% of parents fit this category. Someplace between 90 and 95% opt their children in, leaving someplace between around 5% unable to attend due to non-responsive parents. Steve Dilley, the department chair for health and physical education at Carson High, put it plainly in a letter he wrote to this committee. During my 10-plus years of teaching family life within the health framework as mandated by NRS, 99% of my opt-outs were due to students who lacked the family structure to simply sign and return the family life form. Most of these students come from a home life whose challenges are greater than any of us can imagine. These are the most vulnerable students, the ones who really need this content. Regarding my content, I myself participated in the most recent update on the state standards. They are evidence-based and supported by studies that demonstrate that this type of education decreases the risk to children of online and in-person grooming, increases abstinence, and decreases teen pregnancy. Speaking for myself as a physician, a parent, a grandparent, and a community member, it has been disappointing to hear AB 205 described as a radicalizing sex ed bill for our kids' schools, when the whole purpose of this bill is to protect thousands of Nevada children that currently are denied the opportunity to gain protective health information due to non-responsive parents. Fewer STIs, high-risk teen pregnancies avoided. This will reduce healthcare costs, but most importantly, fewer victimizations of children by predators will prevent lifetime harms. I hope you will join us in supporting this bill, and thank you all for this opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Heather Goulding, for the record. Just to do a quick walkthrough of the bill, Section 1, there's only one section. Subsection 4 of the bill requires annual parental notification and changes the model from opt-in to opt-out. And Section 5 ensures clear, timely, and accessible communication regarding a parent's rights to opt out at any time. The purpose of AB 205 is to ensure that all young Nevadans, especially those with disengaged parents, receive the knowledge they need to make informed, healthy decisions and to understand that they have the right to protect themselves and their own bodies from inappropriate touching. I respectfully urge you to support AB 205 for the health, safety, and empowerment of Nevada's children. Madam Chair, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Koch, and thank you, Assembly Member. Committee, any questions for the presenters? Oh, sure. Yeah, Senator Cruz Crawford?
Thank you, Chair. As a principal of a K through 5 school for the last 10 years, I get to supervise the 5th grade Human Growth and Development course. And it's a course about your body. And what I've noticed is we really have to chase down parents with a notification. Same thing with parent conferences, required parent conferences when we meet with our parents about their grades. And what I've consistently seen is the children that might not have as much access to their parent or guardian are the ones that lose out on both the conferences and that course. I have noticed too, once we do, I can only speak on the 5th grade class, but it's about your body and learning about their bodies. And once they do find those names, there is an uptick of them reporting that they have been abused at home. So I can speak to that myself, and I really appreciate this legislation. I know that it's scary for some people, but there's always an avenue for parents and guardians to request the curriculum from their website, and I encourage parents to request that curriculum because I think they would be comforted with the knowledge that their students are getting in the classroom, and it's under a trained nurse and counselor. They receive that at my school. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz Crawford. Senator Danyate?
Thank you so much, Chair. I had 2 questions. Perhaps you can help me with them. First of all, thank you for bringing this legislation forward. I understand the critical components in terms of improving public health relevant to health education and so forth. And so obviously this is a conversation that we've had in the community level for a long time. I know in other states, right, that there's always this consideration of how do we ensure that there's parental involvement and an understanding of what your child is receiving for education while also meeting the needs of what children need to go through in terms of building up the literacy, right? And so I know in 2 states, in several states, so I'm going to give just they're kind of 2 recommendation changes. I wanted to know if you would consider them or if you've had these discussions. The first one was, I know in some states, California, for example, instead of doing it based on the unit or the course as you're requiring, that there's also an opportunity to do it during the registration for the student then when they're transitioning from elementary to middle school or middle school to high school. Have you had that discussion in terms of the policy, or is there a reason why you tied it to specifically the unit or course?
Thank you, Senator. This is Heather Goulding for the record. Yes, there's Washoe County requires the parent at annual registration, to indicate during the registration process if the parent chooses to opt in or out. Not all of our counties do that, and that system works fine. There are school districts that prefer not to have state mandates. This is sort of the most minimally intrusive change. It's a minimal change from what the current system is, and so we are trying to stay out as much as possible from the process.
Thank you. And Chair, if I may follow up, the second question that I had, so now shifting towards making sure that parents are involved in a part of the process and their understanding. I know other states, for example, in Indiana, when they shifted to the opt-out policy as you're proposing, in addition of the notification of a year prior or so forth during the registration period, they also did it where they required at least 2 instances. So at least 48 hours or 2 weeks in advance of when the curriculum is about to take. And they also ensured that the curriculum was being easily retrievable, right? So if a parent wanted to know, like, what are you trying to teach my kid, right? What are the programs that you're going to use and the content, that they at least had the transparency to decide for themselves. And so was there any consideration in terms of other notification time periods, or how did you arrive to the one? Was it, I guess, the one that you have in the bill, was it modeled after a different state, or what did you do in the back end?
Thank you for the question. This is Heather Goulding. The original bill didn't include a time frame, and while we were working with stakeholders on the assembly side, we responded to concerns by adding the language about the timing. And I forgot the second half. The other thing I wanted to fill in was the concern about the curriculum being available to parents. And I want to tell the committee that one of the things that I did was, so Washoe County is on, all of the curriculum is online. There is an outline of curriculum objectives, and there are the materials themselves. And I reviewed them all because I have heard from a number of parents concerns about what was included in the curriculum. This bill very specifically does not address curriculum. That's an issue that's settled. So this only looks at the opt-out versus opt-in. But I reviewed the curriculum because I wanted to make sure that I could honestly tell parents that I had seen the curriculum and that it does what we're saying, that it's protecting children, it's telling children what the names of their reproductive parts are. And so that is online. I reviewed it just last night, went through it all again, and so it's easily available. At least it is for Washoe County. I haven't, in all honesty, reviewed it for every county in our state, but it is available for many.
Thank you, Senator Donyante. I don't see other committee questions. I do have a couple of questions, Assemblymember or Dr. Koch. Dr. Koch, you mentioned in your part of the presentation that helps prevent teen pregnancy, less STIs, talks about abuse, sexual abuse. Is there research on that? Is that evidence based? Assemblymember Dr. Koch, whomever. Okay, turn your microphone on, please.
Okay.
Okay, start
try
over.
it that
Start
way.
over.
Yes, this is Dr. Koch for the record, and yes, it is evidence-based. And we have copies of some of the research over here.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Koch. Another question I have then is, this was changed. Assemblymember, this will be. I know you enough to know you've done this research. This was changed in what, 2017, 20. What, you don't. Okay, because I know that it was before Governor Sandoval, right? During that, would you mind, Vice Chair?
Will you repeat your question again, just so I make sure?
Yeah, what I was asking is, when was it? Was it always an opt-in, or was it ever an opt-out? Does anyone know that?
I believe we had a hearing in I want to say 2011 in the Assembly Education. I'm smiling at Ms. Hanson because she and I were there together. I believe it was the Assembly Education 2011. That is my memory.
Ms. Hanson smiling, is that a? I honestly can't remember that long ago. Okay, I appreciate that, Ms. Hanson, I do. It's been a while. It's been a while. Well, thank you. I just wanted to know how the history of it, if we had that. Thank you, Vice Chair. Go ahead.
And it has been an ongoing battle. And, there is some, somebody has to sign a letter, right? Somebody has to do it, whether it's opt-in or opt-out. Somebody, someplace is going to sign a letter for their child. As a mother of 3 daughters, I have to tell you, my true, honest opinion is that giving children more information does not end up giving them more freedom in a sexual manner. It gives them more information, right? So the fear is always from, that I hear, is that either my child was traumatized by the information, or that my child now had too much information and could use it for, in a mother's eyes, the wrong reasons, right? But as a mother and as a legislator, I don't feel that way. And also as a teacher. I mean, I feel like we give students information for lots of different reasons and lots of different subjects. But in this case, it's part of their health classes. And I'm still here, and I heard that information at some point, I'm sure. And it is supervised, as our resident principal next to us said. I know the controversy, I appreciate the controversy, and I appreciate the two of you being cognizant of that and being sensitive to that, because I understand that. But at some point, then somebody signs in or signs out. And so in this case, we're just giving the majority of the parents, which has been the discussion in this legislature for over a decade. We are giving the majority of the parents, they're doing what is being offered, and that those few people that don't want it, then they opt out. That's all. So, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just one other question to make sure I have this right. I'm not sure, so I just address this to you, Assembly Member. What is the, because now we know it's opt-in, and if I remember put my school board hat back on, if parents hadn't before Washoe changed it so that they did that registration, it was actually intentional and so on. And if parents didn't express a desire, then they get on the phone and call them. Right, and I think most districts do that. And so, about how many? I believe you mentioned this, Assemblywoman. How many? What percentage of our students that we never get a hold of their parents, or they never respond? You know what I mean?
Thank you for the question. Heather Goulding for the record. When we look at statewide numbers, so we have reports across the state. Statewide, it's about 5%. And in all transparency, that some of those, of that 5% may be intentionally not filling out a permission slip. Totally fair to assume that part of those know that their children won't participate if they don't fill out the permission slip. However, you'll hear stories, you will hear some folks giving testimony about the families that are just simply non-responsive. These are less engaged parents, and these are typically at highest risk. And the kids that we feel are it's most important. It's important that all children get this information, but for kids that are having less parental engagement to also not have this critical knowledge, we're leaving a gap that endangers those children.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Any other questions from the committee? Senator Rogich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm curious more about the study with regard to the teenage pregnancies and what the categories are. So if I'm assuming that you're saying that if they attend the courses or the class instruction, they're not going to become teenage pregnancies? That it's because that they are teenage pregnancies because they're not attending.
This is Dr. Koch for the record, and basically what the studies that we have show is that there's an increased rate of not having sex if they attend these classes. There's a longer period of abstinence, and that those who do choose to have sex are more likely to be using an effective method of birth control, more likely to be using condoms, more likely to be using birth control. So therefore, the class reduces the number of teenagers who become pregnant as teenagers.
Okay, you're good. Senator Doniate?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me take a second bite of the apple. Diving more, I'm assuming you've had lots of meetings of the testimony that we're about to hear from this presentation. One of the key aspects of in reading some of those studies that have been referenced is that oftentimes the opt-out when a parent decides that they do not want their child to receive certain information, that they believe that there's that they feel more comfortable doing themselves than a regular manner just because of what their child has experienced, right? If there's any trauma that they've experienced so far, and there too. there's always this conversation of parental involvement in terms of developing like advisory committees at the school level or the district level so that parents can, those who choose to opt out or opt in, right? In this case, the parents who say, I don't want my child to receive this education, that they can still receive some level of education or information as to how they can explain this to their child, because now the child is missing out from those types of units. So have you had those discussions in terms of, for the parents that say, this is not what we want for our children, how do we ensure that they still receive the information so that they can still educate it at the personal level? I don't know if that has come up in your discussions.
Thank you so much for the question, Senator. This is Heather Goulding. We have an educator who will be presenting, who I think can address that question and the importance of the information also being shared with parents. So I'm going to leave that to Ms. Schutte.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Koch, great to see you here, my friend. My question is regarding your studies that you quoted, and I wanted to be clear for the record that the documentation shows that the students that take these classes have less teenage pregnancy versus, because that's not really answering the question of opting in versus opting out, but very specifically, the classes do help if they take them. Is that where that data is coming from?
My good friend, Dr. Titus, it is a pleasure to see you. And the data is, this
Your
is
name,
Dr. Koch for the record.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And the data is carried out in a lot of different environments, but basically teenagers in these situations who are educated are more likely to use contraception, more likely to use condoms, and less likely to become pregnant.
Thank you for that, because what I'm getting at is the classes do help. I think that's what the data shows. By taking the classes helps to reduce the rate of pregnancy, hopefully STDs and those kind of things we don't want to see in our teenagers. But what I need clarity in, because what this bill does, it's not questioning whether the classes are effective. What the bill is asking to do is trying to increase the rate of participation. And do the studies show that currently, and I think having opt-in versus opt-out messages on these states, do we know if those other states, the other 47 states that do have the opt-in, do they have less teenage pregnancy than we do in the state of Nevada by 1%?
We have, Heather Goulding for the record, Senator, we have not been able to find that very specific data, which we looked for.
Right, because that's the hard question here. It's not about the education. It's not about the importance of having it. It's the question of the opting in or opting out. Does it change? Does it lower the risk? And that's what I would like to see, that the other 47 states that you have to opt out, they have a less teenage pregnancy rate than we do in the state of Nevada.
Heather Goulding for the record. Senator, I think that if we look at the 2% that are of parents who are actively opting out right now, presumably we would think that there's one would make an assumption that they're more engaged because they're opting out in a situation where they don't even need to. It may follow that they're providing this information, and we assume that they were providing this information to their children. So they're getting this knowledge. We've got the 93% who are actively opting in, and they're getting the information. We've got that 5% that some percentage of that 5% have disengaged parents. So let's say we're talking about 2.5–3% of kids in our state. That's a lot of kids that are getting information. They're not getting it all, or they're getting it from the internet, or they're getting it from kids on the playground. And those kids deserve to have accurate information. So if we look at that section that aren't on either side, there's a knowledge gap there, and those children deserve our protection.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. I just would like to see what the teenage pregnancy rates are, and I guess you guys could look that up throughout the states and then separate the states that have the education opt-in versus opt-out. That's what we're looking at. I understand that the knowledge is critical. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I will invite you to step back, Dr. Koch and Assembly Member. And we will now open up the dais or the table in front for support testimony here in Carson City and in Las Vegas. If you're there in Las Vegas and you're there in support of Assembly Bill 205, please come forward at this time, and we will get to the phone line as well. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas, but there are some coming. Please come forward in Las Vegas if you'd like to testify in support. We will do 20, just as a repeat, we will do 20 minutes of support testimony, so please be mindful that we want to get to as many people as we can, and don't forget to state your name for the record. Please begin whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello. Thank you, and thank you for listening and being a part of this very important bill. My name is Lisa Schuette, Schuette. I'm a retired teacher. I taught middle school health. I was the district teacher of the year in 2013, and in 2010, HIV educator of the year for Nevada. My background is law enforcement. I never thought I'd be a teacher, and I was inspired to become a teacher working with kids who were in the system because of poor decisions or tough decisions or family circumstances that led to them being incarcerated. So teaching health, I had the opportunity to speak to them prior to getting into a system, so to speak. Health and family life, sex education is ultimately about decision making. It's about knowledge. And what I found as a health teacher is this gave students and their parents a really important icebreaker. I would encourage students to go home and ask their parents questions or to have information to share with their parents to break that ice, and so that parents could really talk to their kids about what's important and why they are so worth protecting and looking out for. That was the beauty of this class. When we talked about body parts, you know, it's embarrassing, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and now you're talking about body parts that kiddos have grown up, you know, it's private. It is, personal and private. So I would say just think elbow if you're kind of embarrassed about this.
Ms.
And then
Schuette, I'm
oh,
so sorry, your 2 minutes are up, ma'am.
Oh,
I'm so
yikes,
sorry.
really?
It goes fast. It goes fast, I know. It does. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. If you have other comments, though, just make sure you give them to our committee secretary, and she'll make sure we get them. Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Brian Wallace, a teacher in Carson City and the Vice President of the Nevada State Education Association in support of AB 205. I am reading this on behalf of a health teacher, Annie Maritet, who teaches at Eagle Valley Middle School here in Carson City. Quote, the current opt-in process is overly restrictive. For example, last semester, at least 4 students were excluded from sexual education and human health, not because their parents had opted them out, but because the required signed forms were not submitted. One student who enrolled a week before the unit was unable to participate due to the opt-in requirement and the timing of his enrollment. Another student who wanted to participate was excluded because his mother, despite sending a parent square message to all the appropriate school staff, did not fulfill the opt-in policy by submitting the correct signed permission slip. The student was already struggling with attendance, and this only made the situation worse when he learned that he would not be able to participate in the unit due to his own family's lack of submitting the signed form. The current opt-in requirement creates unnecessary administrative burdens, such as chasing down students to remind them to have the permission slip signed, reprinting permission slips over and over, and contacting frustrated parents who believe their voice is good enough to allow participation. This continued delays the students' access to important education, and AB 205 will address this by removing these barriers, ensuring that all students, regardless of their family's level of involvement, can receive the essential lessons offered in the unit without delay. This change would create a more efficient system, providing every student with the opportunity to benefit from this critical education while preserving the parental right to opt their child out of the unit, end quote. The percent who never respond leaves school staff in limbo and creates a scheduling issue, as those students cannot remain in the health class and must be placed elsewhere, which then impacts our class sizes someplace else within the building. Or worse, asks a student to repeat material in another class they have already had the prior semester. Nevada's teachers would greatly appreciate removing the paper chase so we can put that energy into content delivery and our students' well-being. We encourage you to pass AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Please go right ahead.
Madam Chair and members of the Senate Education Committee, my name is Dr. Tim McFerrin. I'm an OBGYN, and I've been involved with public health for about almost 40 years. Students of Nevada deserve the best preventive health education that can be obtained. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of why this is so important from an OBGYN. Last week, a 14-year-old came into our clinic complaining of no menstrual period. We had to tell her she had a positive pregnancy test. Well, the first thing she said is, "Oh, my mom's going to kill me." The second thing she said is, "How did this happen? I watched the movies. I didn't do it like they do it. How could I get pregnant?" 2 months ago, a 16-year-old came into the emergency room with severe pelvic infection, multiple pelvic abscesses. She had to be on 3 antibiotics to save her life. No one told me this could happen to me. Am I going to have children? How does a healthcare professional answer those questions? Both these teenagers did not have preventive health education. Senators, these are not isolated cases. These teenagers are coming in daily to our hospitals and clinics. Public health is based on education and prevention. AB 205 ensures that this most vulnerable population, which is actually thousands of students in Nevada, get access to preventive health education that they so desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McFerrin. We're going to go to Las Vegas now. We'll go to Las Vegas. So whomever would like to go first there, please turn on the microphone and state your name and spell your last name for the record. Remember, you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair Dondero, and members of the Senate Committee on Education. My name is Eileen Enriquez, spelled E-N-R-I-Q-U-E-Z. I am a medical student at the Kirk School of Medicine here in Las Vegas. I am also a Vegas native who attended CCSD schools for my K-12 education. Sexual health is an integral component of overall well-being, affecting physical, emotional, and social outcomes. Unfortunately, Nevada continues to face alarming statistics that demand our action. When compared to the national average, our state consistently reports higher rates of chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and other sexually transmitted infections in those under the age of 24. In addition, Nevada's teen birth rate, preterm birth rate, and low birth weight rate remain above national averages, clearly signifying a gap in our health education and outreach efforts. These statistics are not just numbers. They represent real people, our youth, whose futures are being jeopardized by preventable health outcomes. STIs and teen pregnancies don't only affect those directly involved. It can also become a financial burden on the state of Nevada. About 1 in every 5 sexually active teen reports not using any method to prevent pregnancy. Another 45% of high school students don't even use a condom, which is the only way to prevent STIs. We know that untreated STIs can lead to infertility, chronic pain, increased HIV risk, pregnancy complications, and multi-organ damage. Now I can continue citing the data, but the point is clear. These outcomes are preventable, but prevention begins with education. Let's be clear, this bill does not eliminate parental rights, it enforces them. The language in AB 205 ensures that parents can refuse or remove their children from these classes at any given time in the school year. It also maintains full curriculum transparency. This bill will provide life-saving education to our most vulnerable populations. Growing up informed, empowered, and safe, that is the heart of AB 205, and I request your support.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez. Who's next in Las Vegas?
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair John Darrow Loop, and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Jacqueline Nguyen, Nguyen, and I represent the Nevada State Medical Association, the oldest and largest organization representing physicians in our state. I'd like to thank Assemblymember Goulding for bringing forth this legislation. I'd also like to ditto the important and excellent points made by my physician members and medical student member that just spoke in support. NSMA supports scientifically valid, medically accurate, evidence-based curriculum in sexual education that is age-appropriate, comprehensive, and opt-out. Therefore, today we're in support of AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. One more in Las Vegas, and then we'll go to the phone lines. Who's next?
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Rebecca Acosta, ACOSTA, and I'm speaking today as the Executive Director of A&J Patient Advocacy, a nonprofit agency supporting families across Nevada and helping them to ensure their children's health needs are met wherever they go. So as a board-certified patient advocate and community health worker, I often find myself needing to provide the most basic health education to a family before we can even begin to address their child's health needs. Right now, Nevada ranks 45th in adult literacy, with health literacy presumably even lower. I view the current policy of opting in to sexual education as one of inequity that lowers overall health literacy. Health literacy is a critical component of an individual's ability to access, navigate, and utilize the healthcare system appropriately. Low health literacy rates contribute to improper use of the system, resulting in millions of dollars of unnecessary healthcare expenditures every year. For example, young people are statistically more inclined to use the emergency room for non-emergency situations instead of outpatient or primary care services. The building blocks of health literacy certainly include scientific and evidence-based education of the human body and its systems. Without a correct understanding of their own body and health, young people certainly cannot be expected to navigate the complex and ever-changing healthcare system appropriately. AB 205 maintains a parent's right to opt their child out of this course and reduces the administrative burden on both families and educators. As a parent of 2 teenage boys myself, I have completed permission forms for sexual health class multiple times over multiple years, and I urge you to eliminate this roadblock for our youth to receive timely, factual, and scientific information about their bodies and health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. We're right at about the halfway point. We will go to the phone lines for 3 callers, and then we'll come back here to Carson City. AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 now on your phone or raise hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue.
Hello, committee members and chair. Thank you for your time today. My name is Sarah Lindstrom, Lindstrom. I'm here to let you know that how I believe a bill like AB 205 could have benefited me in my childhood. I was raised in a religious household with 10 siblings, 7 siblings, 7 of whom were brothers. My eldest 2 brothers were 9 and 10 years older than me. From the age of 4 to 11, I was molested by them, basically until they moved out. My parents were aware of this, but instead of offering me the help I needed, they protected their sons. I became aware in 2016 that I was the only child in my household who did not get opted in to the SHARE program in the 4th and 5th grade. My parents conveniently didn't fill out forms. I later learned I was excluded, so the truth of their abuses would stay in the secrecy of shame that I was burdened with for most of my life. Luckily, I have opened up through the Me Too movement, years of therapy, and having my own daughters, and have begun to speak out against the abuses of children. Bill AB 205 may have made my parents hesitate to fill out paperwork to have me excluded from SHARE, especially after having had 7 children who attended it before me. SHARE is the first time children are educated about their bodies, the boundaries others cannot cross pertaining to it, and it gives them their first chance to speak up in a safe environment of adults in the community who can intervene to maybe stop the abuse. Not all parents have their children's happiness and safety as their top priority. The truth is, share may be the only chance for some children to find freedom from the walls of secrecy of a family home. I truly believe participation in share should be mandatory, so when a bill is put forth to that end, I will be here to speak in support again. But today, I ask for your support of AB 205 to protect kids like me being abused by family members, step-parents, husbands, or family friends.
Miss Lindstrom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Miss Lindstrom. Your time is up, but we'd certainly encourage you to send the rest of your comments in so the committee can get them. Thank you so much for your call.
Okay.
Thank you so much. AVH?
Chair, there are no additional callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll come right back here to Carson City. Whomever's first. Please.
Hi, Committee. Victoria Supple representing Southern Nevada Health District, SUPPLE. We are here in support of AB 205. Just for some statistics for you all, and we have this all submitted in a letter of support on Nellis. Nevada's rates for HIV and STIs have historically been above average, and according to the CDC's 2023 STI surveillance report, Nevada ranks 10th for primary and secondary syphilis, 6th for congenital syphilis, 12th for gonorrhea, and 19th for chlamydia. AB 205 will assist Southern Nevada Health District's public health efforts towards ending HIV. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Suttle. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alana Walls, W-A-L-L-S. I spent 12 years as a classroom teacher, 3 of those years as a sex education coordinator. In 2019, I left the classroom to pursue a graduate degree and will graduate with my PhD in cultural anthropology from UNR in about a week. My research focuses on how parents and educators at a middle school in urban Nevada translate sex education law into practice and strive to find what is best for children within the context of sex education. My research draws on participant observation and interviews conducted between 2020 and 2024 with educators, parents, and students. As you can imagine, there's a lot of nuance and complexity within how students, teachers, and families navigate these issues, but there are a few things I can say with certainty. Students and the public benefit from access to comprehensive sex education, and more students will have access to quality sex education if AB 205 passes. A few things to consider. I've seen firsthand that students, in the absence of other information, seek information about sex from the internet and peers. Research also shows that a transparent curriculum developed in partnership with families and delivered by a trained educator is welcomed by students and effective in combating misinformation. The opt-in system puts too many kids at risk of being left out, but not because of a conscious decision, but because form gets lost, parents are busy, and they simply don't understand what's at stake. Sex education isn't just about biology. It's also learning about consent, boundaries, protection, and healthy relationships. These are essential life skills, especially in the world where misinformation spreads fast. By requiring opt-in, we're putting roadblocks between students and information. Of course, families should be part of these conversations. Best practice in sex ed is transparency with curriculum and provides extension and support for families. Switching to an opt-out policy still respects family values. This change is about access, equity, and common sense. Let's make sure our students are informed, prepared, and protected. Let's switch to an opt-out policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walls. Please go ahead. And if there's anyone else in Las Vegas who would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 205, please come forward at this time. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Tess Opferman here on behalf of the Washoe County School District in full support of this bill. I know there was some conversation about what the Washoe County School District does. For the most part, our system works very well. We do have, when students register, their parents are able to select opt-in or opt-out on Infinite Campus. And so about 1% of parents do opt their children out. About 98.3% of parents opt their children in, but we have about 0.7% of students that their parents oftentimes don't. These are students whose parents don't register them before class. They show up on the first day of school, register their child, then don't have the opportunity to opt in and opt out. We are fully supportive of this bill because we want to make sure that in Washoe County School District, that 0.7% of students is not left out, is not sidelined because their parent has not chosen to opt in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Offerman. I see there's no one else in Las Vegas coming forward. AVH will go to the phone lines.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 205, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
We have about 3 minutes left, so this is a good time for a ditto.
Chair, we have no additional callers in support at this time.
Okay, please come right here in Carson City. Please go right ahead.
Thank you, committee. My name is Stephanie Cook, and I'm on the Carson City Family Life Advisory Committee for the Carson City School District. I'm here to support AB 205. We know that health ed is not just a nice to have. It's basic necessary information that protects our children from preventable harm. Students deserve to understand consent, safety, and their own development, regardless of whether a parent is active or absent in these conversations. If we rely solely on an opt-in model, we risk leaving behind exactly the students who may need this education the most. The opt-out policy strikes a respectful balance in preserving parental rights while making sure no child is unintentionally excluded from vital instruction. I urge you to support AB 205.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Please go ahead. A minute apiece.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of Senate Education Committee. My name is Annie Vong, ANNIEV, as in Victor, ONG. On behalf of Nevada Public Health Association, we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. That was even less than a minute. Please go right ahead.
Hello, Chair Taylor and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Carissa Pierce, CARISSAPEARCE, and I represent the Children's Advocacy Alliance, and we are in strong support of this bill. Research does show that when teens don't receive comprehensive sexual education, they're at a higher risk of unintended pregnancy. This bill also protects children from sexual predators who are going to use their limited knowledge of their bodies against them, and they're not even going to know that it's happening. So it's essential that we provide this education. And I really want to capture that this bill captures the students who have parents who are not actively involved in their child's education and ensures that they have access to factual, age-appropriate education that empowers their health and their future. So thank you very much for the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. We'll close, as we're still in the hearing for AB 205, we will close support testimony and now open up for 20 minutes of opposition testimony. So if you're here in Carson City and would like to testify in opposition, please come forward. If you're there in Las Vegas and would like to testify in opposition, please come forward and fill those chairs at this time, and then we will get to the phone lines. Remember, you'll have 2 minutes apiece. Ms. Hanson, you got here first. We'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. And yes, this has been an ongoing battle in Nevada, some 30 years, trying to maintain parental rights to have an opt-in. I think it's very critical. The Constitution's 14th Amendment protects the fundamental right of parents and their children, and this includes the right to make decisions about their children's care and education. In NRS 126.036, the liberty interest of the parent in the child, in the care, custody, and management of the child, the parent's child is a fundamental right. In Psychology Today, in an article, Teen Pregnancies Fall, but School Sex Ed Doesn't Work, since 1990, teen pregnancies have dropped about 62%. In reviewing some 15 studies in the American Journal of Public Health, they found that the conclusion was that it was not sex education that was lowering teen pregnancy. It was in fact who deserved the credit: parents who were now teaching their children, and that was the reason that teen pregnancies were falling, not because of sex education. 93% of parents have decided to participate in this and have their children. The law does not require parents to respond, so as the 5% figure that parents failed to respond is erroneous. There's a lot of those parents that didn't want to respond. There is no proof, as I showed earlier, that these sex education programs work. I think it's very important for Nevada to maintain the right for parents that they have all along, and that is to opt in, to refuse to participate, and that they can do that without returning the information. This is a long-standing policy in Nevada that has been well received by parents who appreciate the opportunity that they don't have to be explaining what their particular point of view is. And I don't think, as we can see from these 15 studies, that the sex education has been what worked, but it's parents being involved. And when they have to opt in, they have to be proactive, which I think is critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, JIMDEGRAFFENREID, and I'm Nevada's Republican National Committee man here today on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party in opposition to AB 205. Changing Nevada's sexual education opt-in policy that requires specific parental consent to an opt-out system adds an extra step for a parent to refuse attendance. This is not good policy because parents should know in advance what classes their children are taking and, more importantly, the content of the curriculum. Data on the support handout that everybody has indicates that there is a very low rate of non-response across the state, so the current system seems to be working well. It seems unlikely that bringing this small percentage of non-respondents into the system will have a meaningful effect on the high rates of activity and associated consequences that are also noted on the handout. Curriculum should be driven by local school boards, and if it was, there might be less concern about opt-in. However, we're aware that school curriculum is often driven by outside special interest groups with whom half or more of Nevada parents disagree, and that makes opt-in critical. In his veto message on the similar bill, AB 348, in the 2017 session, it is accurate to say that Governor Sandoval was concerned about a one-time opt-out, but he was also concerned with local control. He stated, and I quote, "Finally, without a doubt, the policy changes introduced in AB 348 involving sex education are ones that should be determined by parents, educators, and education policymakers at local school boards. These environments invite and include optimum discussion, debate, and decisions. Frustrated by a lack of traction at the local level for changes to policies and instruction related to sex education, proponents of AB 348 now seek to accomplish their goals with a statewide policy. But a uniform one-size-fits-all approach to sex education would be ill-advised, and these policy changes, if made, should be made at the local level," end quote. We believe that parents should need to opt into curriculum that they may disagree with, and we urge a no vote on AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGraffery. Please go right ahead.
My name is Catherine Ingham, Catherine, I'm representing myself. I oppose AB 205. Bills like this erode parental rights and give the state and the school more control of the child. The parents should not only know what is being taught, but should have to opt in instead of mandating it as an opt-out. Parents who are working multiple jobs to be able to survive may miss the deadline to opt out or think that the current way of needing to opt in still exists. This bill is government overreach. If this passes, what will stop the government from using this for other sensitive topics which they don't want parental consent? If contacting the parents is difficult, then bring the subject up when they enroll or another time when you know you will see the parent. Don't change the law, which could be easily abused. I urge you to oppose AB 205.
Thank you, Ms. Ingram. Seeing none coming forward in Las Vegas, we will now go to the phone lines, and then we'll come right back here to Carson City. So please come forward. AVH, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, this is Yolanda Knock, Yolanda, last name Knaak, and Madam Chair and Committee. I want you to know that Nellis opinions for AB 205, 79% are in opposition, and parents know when their children are ready for sex ed. In some counties, sex ed starts as young as 9 years old, and some children might not be ready at that point. The revised AB 205, starting at page 2, line 40, reads, if the written refusal of the parent or guardian is not received, the pupil must attend each lesson of the course or unit. So please don't change to opt out. Please keep opt in and keep parents' rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knack. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Katrin Ivanov, and I am in a strong opposition of this proposed bill. It shouldn't be up to teachers, especially some of them are not very well. And with all the predator teachers you have in schools, including on both sexes, it's just ridiculous. You don't even have a sure way to protect our kids from predators in schools. Now you want to let them really talk about sex? And I don't care what kind of sex, straight, same sex, it shouldn't be brought up. Teachers, I have never knew the sexual orientation of my teachers, and I didn't care, and I'm glad that they didn't feel the need to share it with me when I was a child. I cannot believe that our legislators are trying to make it easier for predators to get to our kids. Please vote no to this bill. My heart goes out to the people that have gone through terrible situations in life, but having or not having sex education would not protect anybody from getting molested at their house. That's other people's activities, not, I don't know how both they can be correlated, honestly. And if we have a way to protect kids from being molested, I'm all for it. But having a predator talking about their fetishes in front of children, it's not the way to go. Thank you so much. I hope you consider it. But if not, at least we're going to know who is supporting predators and who is supporting kids by your votes. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much for the call. We'll take one more caller, and then we'll come right back here to Carson City. ABH?
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Kimberly Fergus, FERGUS. First, you know what? I'm still choking on the part of 4th and 5th grade. But anyway, I'll get to my script. I rise in strong opposition of AB 205. This bill proposes a shift from Nevada's long-standing opt-in system for sex education to an opt-out model, which undermines the principle of informed parental consent. For decades, parents have had the right to actively choose if and when their child participates in sensitive instruction regarding sex, reproductive, and increasingly controversial gender ideology topics. In today's world where schools are under pressure to introduce complex ideology-driven material, default enrollment is unacceptable. The opt-in system has protected families by ensuring transparency and control. Moving to opt-out risks forms being overlooked, especially by parents accustomed to the long-standing opt-in process. If the concern is low participation, perhaps a curriculum should be re-examined, not forced through passive enrollment. Do not replace consent and silence. Respect parental rights. Reject AB 205. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Fergo. We'll come back here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
My name is Teresa DeGraffenreid, spelled DeGraffenreid. I am a resident of Douglas County representing myself in opposition to AB 205. My husband and I had 2 children go through the Douglas County schools, and we always made sure to review the materials and opt in only if we were comfortable with what was being presented. Not everyone will take the time to do that unless it's necessary, which is why opt-in is so important. If we change to an opt-out system, many parents will find out too late that what is being taught in schools conflicts with what they are teaching at home. Control over the curriculum is supposed to be controlled by local school boards. However, we know that school curriculum is often driven by outside special interest groups, such as Planned Parenthood, with whom half or more Nevada parents disagree, including myself. In terms of preventing sexual activity, ultimately teen pregnancy, if, for example, only 1% to 2% of Carson City parents don't respond, how will adding these children with an opt-out program significantly change the 47% sexual activity rate? Changing to an opt-out system makes it far more likely that busy families will have their children being taught things with which they disagree, and we ask you to keep control with parents by continuing an opt-in system that is working well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grafferty. Please go ahead.
My name is Joy Trushenski, Trushenski. I am a non-paid lobbyist. Good afternoon, committee members. Please vote no on AB 205, which means parents must opt out of sex education for their children taught in our public schools instead of the current opt-in requirement. Enrollment in our public schools is declining because of what schools are teaching our children and what they are not. When you talk about comprehensive sex education, this is supported by Planned Parenthood. It really means pushing homosexuality, transgenderism, and abortion and other ideas which many families do not approve. It is the parents who have the fundamental right to determine what is taught to their children, not government. Children's innocence is at stake here. Stop the sexualization of our children. Please vote no on AB 205. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tershinsky. Okay, thank you. Please go
Good
ahead.
morning, Madam Chair. Or
Good
good afternoon,
afternoon.
Madam Chair. We're back again.
Yes.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. We should all, as adults, err toward a child's innocence.
Give us your name for the record.
Oh,
you know this.
I am so sorry. Melissa Clement, Nevada Right to Life, MELISSA, CLEMENT. We should all, as adults, err towards a child's innocence, even if it requires a little extra work on behalf of an administration and on behalf of the teachers. AB 205 enrolls children by default without parents actively agreeing to it. We've already seen the troubling influence of organizations like Planned Parenthood, whose curriculum has been documented to sexualize children, omit chastity, omit fetal development, and even teach that commercial sex work is a form of relationship. Their content is entering classrooms under the banner of comprehensive sex ed, pushing sexual rights over moral formation. And generally, behind each of these curriculums that we've seen, it's generally Planned Parenthood. AB 205 opens the door wider for this ideology by cutting parents out. It assumes silence means consent, but in matters this personal, silence is not consent. I'm a Washoe County School District parent alumni. I had 3 kids that went through the system. Each of those kids I took very seriously with whether they were going to go or whether they were not, because each child is different. The educators sitting on this dais know this better than most. It's incredibly difficult to create a sex ed that is perfect for every child, and I can't tell you how much my heart breaks when I heard the testimony of the woman on the phone. Those are exactly the kind of children we should protect. And that's not sex education, in my opinion. That is personal child safety, and that's important. And I don't think there are too many parents that would deny a child that. And if they did, I mean, that would be a pretty big red blaring sign. But here's the other side of the coin that we need to remember, is that a child's innocence is so very precious. And for a 9-year-old who's not ready to hear about sex or something a little bit more than that.
Ms. Clement, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Have 30 seconds?
No, because I have to give it to everybody else. I'm so sorry.
Everybody else wants it
Okay,
too,
no,
though.
yeah, but that's exactly my point.
Anyway.
That's exactly my point. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Leigh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I will send in my
Please
my
do.
comments.
Please do.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. No, I have to give everyone the same amount of time. So, okay, we'll go. There's no one else in Las Vegas. We'll go to the phone lines. It looks like we have about 6 minutes left, so we'll take 3 callers.
Thank you, Chair. We do have callers in the queue. We'll begin sending the prompt.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Bob Russo, for the record, that is R-U-S-S-O. I oppose AB 205. In my opinion, this bill violates the 14th Amendment's constitutional protection of parental rights by aiming to have sex education in public schools an opt-out option as opposed to how it currently is, opt-in only. In other words, parents will have to refuse to authorize their children's participation in this class to get them out of it. So what is the background of parental rights in America? In an Oregon case, Pierce versus Society of Sisters, going back to 1925, The United States Supreme Court held that parents have a fundamental constitutional right to direct the upbringing and education of their children within the guarantee of liberty found in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. There's something uncomfortable for me about this potential change or approach. For example, how many parents will be unaware of this course without visiting the school district website? Could they easily overlook or be unaware that they must now refuse the sex ed course for their children? To me, the opt-in option avoids any potential confusion and should remain in place. To conclude, this bill, AB 205, attempts to place the state ahead of parents in the educational development of their children. And for this reason, it is unconstitutional and should be opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Next caller, please.
Cyrus, Hojjaty. I'm calling in opposition. I will ditto, yield, let everybody else speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take our next caller.
Caller, please press star 6 to unmute.
Hi, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Erin Phillips. For the record, I am the CEO of Power to Parent, and we stand in strong opposition to AB 205. This bill proposes to shift Nevada's current opt-in system for sex education to an opt-out model. This is a direct affront to parental rights and assumes without evidence that parents are asking to be unburdened of this responsibility. That could not be further from the truth. 93% of parents currently return permission slips under our opt-in system, but the 5% who do not cannot be simply written off as disengaged. In many cases, parents may deliberately choose not to return the form because they do not want their child to participate. We don't have data to support the assumption that these parents are unengaged, and it is deeply problematic to legislate based on assumptions. The sponsor has downplayed the topics covered in sex education, but we know from experience that these lessons span sensitive and complex issues across grade levels. Despite this, curriculum materials are frequently revised by sex education advisory committees, and those changes are not always transparent. Parents are often left in the dark. Power to Parent has repeatedly asked for common sense solutions to improve transparency and return rates, including posting permission slips online and making all curriculum materials available digitally for parents to review, which is not the case in all counties. These simple steps would empower more families to make informed decisions without compromising parental rights. It is also important to note that according to Nevada's own risk behavioral survey, teen pregnancy and early sexual debut have declined without needing to eliminate parental consent. The current system is working. AB 205 is a solution in search of a problem, and it sets a dangerous precedent of removing parents from the equation when it comes to their children's education on highly sensitive topics. I urge you to vote no on AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. We do have this couple of minutes left. Anyone else here in Carson City? Okay, seeing none and seeing no one in Las Vegas, we'll go back to the phone lines. We can take one more caller, AVH.
Thank you, Chair. Queuing up our caller next.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Grace Trujillo. I'm a public health nurse. Just wanted to detail the rest about opposition on 205. Also, I wanted to add that in other instance, if you have a person who's in Islam or in faith, parents task raising children with God consciousness, they will be betrayed by our system if they are going to change this to opt in, and then the kids would be horrendously influenced by curriculums that are not even open to the parents. Why don't we change and upgrade the CSE and involve the development of human, and give resources for life-affirming resources? Why don't we put that in and fix our system so that kids and the parents would be more trusting of the government? Why are we excluding the parents again by forcing this? If someone forced your child to hear a worldview that mock your beliefs, would you feel free? Why are the conservatives' faith and our rights being hampered again? Why are we not being represented in the bills that you guys are putting? It's always on one-sided. Can we put bills that also balances different sex and not just one-sided? This is not really a solution. This is just to give positive force on other people who have different agendas. This is not for the kids. This is for others who are benefiting from it in financially. So I all the testaments, I agree with them, and I oppose on the AB 205. Thank you. And my name is Grace Trujillo. I'll be coming.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. Okay, we're just over our 20-minute time for opposition. If there's anyone else on the phone line, please do submit your comments to our committee secretary, and she'll make sure that each committee member gets those. And now we'll go to neutral testimony. Do we have any neutral testimony here? Neutral testimony on Assembly Bill 205 here in Carson City, and then we'll go to Las Vegas. If there's anyone in Las Vegas neutral on Assembly Bill 205, please come forward at this time.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Ross. I'm a resident of Lyon County and a program director for the Healthy Communities Coalition of Lyon and Story counties. I'm here with a nonprofit organization, myself and Healthy Communities is not taking a position on this bill. However, it is important that I share the following information for educational purposes. As part of my role with Healthy Communities, I have an opportunity to share a program called Signs of Suicide presentations and screenings throughout all the middle schools and high schools in Lyon County. All students receive the presentations, and then their parents have the option to opt them in to have their child screened for depression or possible suicidality. My experience has been that by requiring parents to opt in to have their child screened, there are students who have either disengaged parents or students that do not give the paperwork to their parents that do not receive services that could be essential to them. Recently, I had a parent ask why there wasn't a program like this in their child's school because they would have loved to have them participate. The answer is there is. And their child failed to give them the information, and so that child and that family missed out on services that the parents would have liked them to have. On a personal level, I have had a child go through the Carson City school system. I currently have a daughter that is at Virginia City High School. As an engaged parent, when our kids are in their health unit, they receive evidence-based curriculum at school, and then when they come home, we have a chance to discuss over dinner how our family's morals and values fit into that. Having several teenagers in my home on a regular basis, I am aware that these conversations are not being held in a lot of homes. Therefore, these students, if the requirement is opt-in, many of them are not getting critical information for their health and safety at home or at school. My experience in both scenarios with the expectation of schools making efforts through generally accepted practices of communication with parents is
Ms.
that—
Ross, I am so sorry to cut you off, but that's leaning into support. That's leaning into support, so I have to cut you off for your testimony, okay? But encourage you to send it in. We can read it. Okay. But I just have to be fair to all the sides, okay?
Yes, that's fine.
All right. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Anyone else here in Carson City for neutral? Seeing none in Las Vegas, do we have anyone on the phone lines?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH, and thank you for all who came to testify. I know it's tough to be cut off. I hate to cut people off, but I also want to be fair, and so I hope I'm able to get to that point. We're going to ask our bill sponsor if you'd like to come up with any closing comments.
Thank you, Chair. Heather Goulding for the record. I think one of the things that's so important to remember is that knowledge is power. And this is true for parents as well as for kids. And I would encourage parents to go check out the curriculum that their kids are receiving and find out what what their kids are learning. I heard on the opposition testimony concern about fourth and fifth grade kids learning about sex. What fourth and fifth grade kids learn about is what their body parts are called accurately. They're encouraged to identify trusted adults that they can talk to in times of need. They are not taught how to have sex, but knowledge is power, and it's scary when you don't know what your kids are learning. So in the same way that it's so important that our kids are getting critical information, I hope that parents who are opposed will educate themselves about the information that's being provided in schools. I want to reiterate that AB 205 requires districts to notify parents twice when their children are when they're scheduled for sex ed, and it maintains all parental rights. No children are forced to receive an education. Parents at any time, they can change their mind either way, opt in, opt out. Parents are still in full control. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, for listening, and I hope that we've earned your support for this critical piece of legislation.
Thank you, Assemblymember Golding. We appreciate it. And again, thank you to all who came out to share your thoughts on either side of the issue. We really do appreciate it. And don't forget, if you got cut off, one, I apologize. But two, make sure you send your comments in and we can all get them. Okay, our next presenter for our next bill, Assembly Bill 420, is presenting in another committee. So we will take a brief recess to give Assemblymember Gonzalez an opportunity to get here. I'm looking at about 10 minutes. Okay. All right, everyone, we are back in session. Thank you for that. We wanted to make sure our presenter was able to make her way up here. And so now we will have the second bill that we're going to hear today. This is Assembly Bill 420. Assembly Bill 420 revises provisions relating to education. That tells us a bunch. So welcome, Assemblymember Gonzalez, and you have co-presenter. I don't know if you have anyone in Las Vegas co-presenting. You do co-presenting. If you're in Las Vegas and you are co-presenting, please come forward at this time, and the Assemblymember will just let you introduce your co-presenters as necessary. And then what we will do, as we said earlier, we're going to limit support, opposition, and neutral testimony to 20 minutes each. 20 minutes each. So make sure you get down there early if you want to make sure and get your comments in. So please, Assemblymember, go ahead, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you. I like to keep the committee guessing, so thank you. Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cecilia Gonzalez, and I represent Assembly District 16 down in the southern part of Nevada. The goal of this bill is to increase. I apologize. Before I begin, I also want to note that I do have a co-presenter down in Las Vegas, Niall with Make the Road Nevada. Is he there? Are they there?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Sorry. Awesome. Great. Thank you. I just want to make sure they were there. The goal of this bill is to increase transparency and accountability in the use of force by police officers and employees within our school districts. Assembly Bill 420 aims to promote student safety, ensuring our schools uphold the values of responsibility as well as accountability. In recent years, concerns have been raised about the use of force by police officers, including the use of chemical agents and electronic stunt devices against students. For those of you that may not be familiar with chemical agents, that is pepper spray, another name for pepper spray. Assembly Bill 420 responds to these concerns about transparency, accountability, and community trust in the presence and conduct of school police officers. While school police officers play an essential role in maintaining order and security, it is essential to ensure the use of force in school settings is monitored, reported, and subject to public oversight. Assembly Bill 420 addresses this gap by requiring school districts that employ or contract school police officers to collect and publicly post data on all use of force incidents. This data must be made available on the school or the district's website no later than the first day of each calendar year and must reflect incidents from the prior academic year. Specifically, this bill mandates reporting on the location where the force was used, the type of force used, and the number of occurrences involving each type, whether the incident occurred during regular school hours or at a school-sponsored event, the demographics of the individual subject to force, and the rank and years of service that the officer is involved in. And I do want to note that we worked closely and heavily with school PD, and so a lot of these amendments and suggestions came from our working group together. At this time, I will now transition my presentation to Niall down in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Chair Taylor and committee members. For the record, my name is Niall Usher. It's Nyleusher, and I'm an intern with Make the Road Nevada. I wanted to thank Assemblymember Gonzalez for allowing me to co-present with her and Noe. Thank you for all of your work on this bill as well. Every parent wants schools to be places where students can learn, grow, and feel safe, not only for students, but for the educators and staff who serve them. As we work to create safer and more supportive school environments, we must start by looking at the data. Understanding what's happening at our school allows us to pinpoint areas where change is necessary and where we can improve. However, the data we need is not easily accessible. Currently, the only way to access this information is through a public records request. That process can take months, and for many families and students, that's simply not a realistic or accessible option. The only reason the numbers I'm about to provide now are available are through a public records request. During the 2019 to 2020 school year, school police officers used pepper spray 30 times, deployed tasers 6 times, and applied physical force 22 times. In the 2021 to 2022 school year, those numbers went up. Pepper spray was used 52 times, tasers 4 times, and physical force 34 times. Before the end of the 2022 to 2023 school year, the numbers were 8 instances of pepper spray, 2 taser deployments, and 28 uses of physical force. to get the rest of the data for the full 2022-2023 school year, and then the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. Make the Road Nevada had its own records request. And that's why this bill matters. It would require any school district with school police officers to publish an annual use of force report on the school district's internet website. The report would include details such as where the incident happened, what kind of force was used, the student's age and demographics, and information about the officer involved. This is data that the school police already track, but is not made available to the public. Transparency shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a norm. With AB 420, we have an opportunity to build safer, more informed, and more accountable school environments. And I'll turn it back over to my co-presenters in Carson City.
Thank you so much, committee. And with that, we are open for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And why don't we see if we have, Vice Chair has questions. If there are other committee members with questions, just let me know.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So how will you have this documented with students' names? I mean, there will be some, and if you don't put a name, if that's redacted, there's going to be some indication of obviously where this happened or what happened. How are we going to protect kids who may not want this information exposed?
Thank you so much for the question. Cecilia Gonzalez for the record, Assembly District 16. Through the chair to you, Senator Dondero Loop.
Please feel free, go direct,
thank
please.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So the information, and I believe the bill states that it should be declassified and disaggregated, so the students' information should not be there. There was some concerns that we heard from other school districts. So, for example, Washoe County, with respects to some of the amended language, where those were some of the concerns, right? Whether it was a student or an officer potentially being able to be identified. And so in the bill, one of the amendments was that if the force is less than 75 officers, that some of that information does not apply and or is not applicable, so that those people cannot be identified.
And then if I may, Noe Orozco for the record, that's N-O-E, accent over the E, O-R-O-S-C-O, Government Affairs Manager with Make the Road Nevada. The other thing is in terms of ensuring that we are not sharing personal and private information. Whenever we are collecting some of that information, it is broken down by the age range. So it would be elementary school aged students, middle school aged students, high school aged students, and then 18 and over. And that was through conversations that we had with the school district police department, so that we do not say Noe Orozco was the one who had been the recipient of whatever that force was.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just think I understand the intent of the bill, and I appreciate the intent of the bill, but I just think it's going to be really important because there are parents, right, who may not, their child may say, tell everybody, but the parent may not, or vice versa. So, I mean, that happens all the time, and I think that, we have to be cognizant of that. And then I guess the other question, Madam Chair, if I may, are all of these incidences, a baton, a chemical agent, stun device, any of these things, are those all currently being used in a school setting where there may be a fight or some other thing where they have to use something?
Noe Orozco for the record. Yes, so right now in Clark County, those are different methods that the school district police department do have. We did have a conversation with Washoe County School District, and they say that they do not have the deployment of tasers. So for them, that would not be applicable because they do not use tasers in the school district.
Yeah, and that brings me to my last part of that was my concern, because when you have a small district, my previous question included in this, a much smaller district, Carson City, right? Elko, whoever we may be, and Lander, you've got less kids, less schools. It's pretty easy to identify where something has happened, what is going on, and so I was just curious if this is applicable. It appears to be applicable to all school districts.
Cecilia Gonzalez for the record. Thank you for the question. No, this is just for school districts that employ police. So that would be Washoe and Clark County at this moment. Other school districts through conversations have, when it's a really, really small county, maybe they contract with like the sheriff, right? They don't necessarily have officers on campus. And in respects to the disidentifying information, right, this is a collection of a report over the year. So it's not going to be every time there's an incident, right, that they're going to be reporting this on their website. It's going to be a collection of how many times that use of force was used through the year. Like I said, we worked through an amendment with Washoe and Clark County Police to make sure that this information isn't identifying of either an officer or student for those very reasons.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I'm just asking because I'm trying to protect kids. It's not about, well, it is about what happened, but I mean, it's about the kids. I'm just trying to make sure kids are protected because, I see charter schools and so I was trying to figure out how big of a group that we may have. And I appreciate your answer about smaller districts. And I understand that. So I will stop there, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, and if I may just
Please go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Noel Orozco for the record. So the bill is saying that it has to provide certain information, which is the deployment of OC, which is essentially the pepper sprays, the deployment of tasers, and then the open hand. That is information that we had mentioned as already being recorded by the school district police department. And so it's not saying how that information is going to look. It's just saying that it has to be published on the school district's website. And so for that, if we were to be using some of the information that Niall had provided for the 2019-2020 academic year, it would just say on the district's website that there were 30 deployments of OC sprays, that there was 6 deployments of tasers and 22 open hand, and then some of that other information in terms of the demographics of the students that were being recipients.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. The reason I was asking that is because, C says, without limitation, age, race, gender, and ethnicity if the person, upon such force was used by school police. And so I saw that as identifying indicators, right? So I say this child was, 16, female, of, Black, African American, or Native American, whatever I said, I identified this child. It could be pretty easy to pull it down in and know who we were talking about.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I do have a question just I'm looking at, and I see the amended version, thank you, and I know you've worked very hard on this, we can tell by the amendments. But that's what this process is all about. If we go to still section 1, subsection 3, sub D, where it defines who a police officer is. Now, it says there, it includes a peace officer who is employed by Metropolitan Police Department, created pursuant to, and it gives the NRS, or a sheriff's office that has entered into a contract with the school district to provide police services in public schools. So does that include then if someone is contracted with their sheriff or something like that? I'm not weighing in on the value in that. I just want to make sure I understand.
Yes, Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much for that question. The amendment should have taken that out. The understanding or the conversation that I had with the Clark County Sheriff is that he would be able to provide that disaggregated data in their use of force policy, their yearly report going forward, that he would be able to maybe put like a pie chart, right, when it talks about like where and say how many of those were in a school setting. So it still wouldn't identify necessarily anybody, but that was, again, specific to Clark County in terms of coming and how we got to this amendment. I have not had conversations with other districts. So we could definitely take a look at that and making sure that the language is clear, that it should really only be for the school district's police departments, and that if, I think that ongoing conversation and work outside of session and possibly in the interim needs to happen on what do those other school districts look like. But, we have 120 days and we're all working very hard, and so that's kind of how we came to this amendment.
Thank you, Assembly Member. So really right now it's almost like a pop cap, right? In terms and really targeting, if you will, or including, better word, targeting sounds negative. That's not what I mean. Including Washoe and Clark. And then seeing what may be appropriate for some of our smaller districts or rural districts and so on.
Yes, Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. That is correct. And again, our smaller rural districts, right, they may not necessarily have police. We know that charter schools also don't necessarily employ police, but maybe they contract them for like games after school and things like that. And so kind of working through some of those nuances, possibly through the interim and hopefully seeing what comes out of the reports. We'll be back and having that conversation either next session or sessions after that.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Other questions? Senator Cruz Crawford?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a few clarifying questions. I see it says chemical agent. What chemical agents does Washoe and CCSD currently use?
Well, the one that I am the most, Noe Orozco for the record, thank you so much. Pepper spray is essentially the most common one, but in terms of any of the other agents that they would be deploying, I would have to defer to them because off the top of my head, I cannot recall.
And the reason why I'm asking is because you are giving specific demographics. Who is that captured? Is it the intended perpetrator? Or I know that often hits many students, so I just want to kind of clarify what that looks like. And we can get that information offline if you can get it later on what that looks like. And then, do campus security monitors have access to any of these type of interventions?
Cecilia Gonzalez for the record. Can you clarify what you mean by interventions and then campus security? So are you talking about people that are not employed by the police department and they're not a certified police officer?
Yeah, like the batons, chemical agents, or electronic stun devices, and then people that are employed directly through the school for campus security.
So do officers have those?
No, so at a school, we have the option to hire campus security monitors, and obviously they hire more in high school. And I was just wondering if they have access to any of those type of interventions, batons, chemical agents, or electronic devices.
Cecilia Gonzalez for the record. I don't have that information right now, but I can definitely connect with the police departments and get that information to you. I think it's a very important question and something that should be included if they do have access to that as well.
Okay, and then with the school location, Chair, thank you. With the school location, when it's reported, did you say it's not reported, the date is not reported?
Cecilia Gonzalez for the record. In terms of location, right, we're talking about like a general, like a middle school in the southern part of Clark County or a middle school in northern Nevada. It's not necessarily location in terms of like where the school is located. However, I think that if they're right during this hearing and through consequent conversations, we've had concerns. That is something that we could potentially work on if the concern is being able to identify these incidents and or locations or schools or personnels. Again, I think the concern is right now we don't know how often this is happening. We don't know on what race this is happening, right? In regards to this phenomenon of the school to prison pipeline, or like how often is this happening on certain bodies of students, on certain genders, on certain races. And so that's really the intent. And so we can definitely talk offline more about cleaning some of that up, because I definitely, again, don't want to out any student or any school employee as well, right? Like that is definitely not the intent here.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate this, because some people did come and talk about the concerns over the overuse. And I think this piece of legislation will do the exact opposite and show how it is our last line of defense for the whole staff body, student body safety, and then we can target where there's some problem issues. And I know districts already have this information, because I know we have to fill out paperwork and the police department has to fill out paperwork. So just streamlining it to a report of 33 and being able to drill down on that, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record. I think right, you hit the nail on the head, right? It was we don't know. Is it happening too much? Is it not happening at all? Is it happening too much at a certain school? Is it happening specifically in some part of the valley or state, right? And these are kind of questions. And like you said, this information is already being compiled. Some of the issues that we run into is, right, I'm a scholar getting my PhD in multicultural education, and I study the school to prison pipeline, or this phenomenon that we talk about in higher academia. And in Clark County, we don't have a report that we can look to and say, okay, is this happening right to a certain gender of students, to a certain age of students? Is it specific to a certain school, right? What is happening or going on at that school? And so that was really the intent. And then again, like I said, maybe it disproves some of these conceptions that we have that it is being overused. And so I think it's a great way for us to show that we're being accountable, but also just really trying to understand what is happening at our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Titus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. And I want to kind of go back to what my colleague just asked about or stated, that apparently when force is used, it's reported already. Use of force is already reported at a school?
Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record, it's an internal report, so it's not like a public report, and it's not like as if I was a parent, I would necessarily get a notification that force was used. It's an internal report, and I can only speak to Clark County because we sat down and we went through like their very intensive process. I'm not really sure what it is like in Washoe County, but in Clark County, when there is a report, right, it is triggered. There's a review process. It then goes up to the chief of police, which then gets reviewed, and then it is sent to the superintendent, I believe. And if any of that is wrong, I believe my colleague here has also had numerous conversations, but there is a report. So this data and information already exists. It's just not public. And so right now, Make the Road has submitted a public records request since January or December? When session started, so in February, and we still have not gotten that data. And I know through my colleagues at my PhD program as well, same thing in terms of wanting to access some of this data, they've had to submit requests and even pay to access this information.
And again, so the use of force is if you use force on any K through 12 campus, that has to be reported somewhere, correct? I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yes, Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record, correct. That is reported. All uses of force are reported.
That's what I thought. So and the type of use, because that's part of the report. What happened? Why did you have to take the kid down, or why did you have to taser them? You know, a 300-pounder coming at a teacher or whatever, right? There's reasons that force happens. That is then reported, and it's just not public at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what this bill is going to do is make it public, correct, on some website, so that, say I'm moving to Clark County, I don't want to send my kid to a school where there's a lot of bad kids there and they're constantly having to use force because it's out of control. And that would be that, as a parent or a grandparent, I would look at it that way. I'm wondering but that's not available anywhere. And it will now be?
Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record. So there are reports. So last session, the chief of police for CCSD did come to this body and testify on certain numbers, which is some of the numbers that we were able to have. But correct, there is no public report that has all of this information. Again, it would be a parent or community member or somebody like myself accessing through a public records request, obtaining this information, correct? And I do just want to say, whether a school uses some of these methods, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were bad kids, right? Like, it just means that there was some incident that triggered this. And through that, right, through these reports, through the training, I know in Clark County, they get very specific. Every case gets reviewed. And whether an officer was justified or not, there could, let's say an officer was justified in using pepper spray, but he could have gone about it differently, or she could have gone about it differently, right? That's part of the training and report that they currently have.
Follow up, if I might, on that, because I can see this coming back by two angles to this story. I think your interest is, are they using it excessively on one particular demographic or location, or is there one school that does this more, versus maybe seeing it from somebody moving to the community, a parent, a grandparent who's bringing their kids, looking at, boy, is this a quality school or not? And there's, I want to send my kids to where they're going to get an education and not worry about being beaten up by another kid, because my granddaughter had that happen in line where another student attacked her in a line. And so I'm just thinking that this could be used from both directions as far as information. Thank you.
Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record, yes, Senator, that is correct. I think that both of those voices are important, right? And I think, like I said in my remarks, it's about transparency and accountability, right? And so, if let's say that this report says this one school is using it often and a parent is concerned, I think these are conversations that we as legislators and school personnel and principals, right, will start, and community members will start having. Okay, well, why is X school using chemical agents 30 times a month, right? And so right now we don't know. And that's kind of really the intent, to start having those conversations.
And then if I may, just add a little bit to that. So one of the things in terms of the use of force, anytime
Give us your name.
Oh, thank you so much, Chair. Noel Orozco, for the record. Whenever Clark County School District Police Department, as well as Washoe County School District Police Department apply force, they do have to report it. And so in terms of your question about like if whatever they're already documenting is made public, part of that will be made public, because whenever they do provide the report for the internal purposes, it is very detailed, and the report that is going to be made public facing is not going to be as detailed, because going back to the Vice Chair's questions in terms of the privacy and the sensitivity of the information of the students, and even some of the police officers, that when it's in a smaller department, we are being mindful of that. So it's not going to be sharing everything that is already done internal. It's not just going to be like we're going to redact some stuff. It's just going to be some of the more top line information, so that going back to what Assemblymember Gonzalez was saying. And so as of right now, anytime that they do use force, they do have to submit some sort of an internal report. And then the very last thing that I'll say is whenever they decide whether it was adequate or appropriate use of force, it is something that they cannot do like in hindsight of like, could we have done something better? That is one of the things that I learned through this process, that it pretty much just has to be like within the totality of what was going on.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no other questions from the committee, we will invite you to step back, if you would, and we will open this hearing up for any support testimony.
Sorry, Senator, if I just may, before we begin, I do have to run to another hearing, and so I have my colleague here who would like to give closing remarks if I am not back by that time.
Okay, thank you, Assemblymember.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Roscoe, then we'll invite you to step back, and we may see the Assembly member again. But this hearing on Assembly Bill 420 is now open for support testimony. Anybody in support? Again, we're going to 20-minute support, 20-minute opposition, and 20 minutes neutral. And remember, you have 2 minutes for your remarks, but it doesn't mean you have to use them. Okay, yeah, please, yes, state your name for the record. You know the routine.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tara Webster, Tarawebster. I'm the policy manager with the Progressive Leadership Alliance, and I'm also here on behalf of the Nevada Immigration Coalition, supporting Assembly Bill 420. Currently, data concerning use of force incidents, including the deployment of tasers, pepper spray, and ping compliance techniques, is difficult to access. This lack of data can impede school districts' ability to identify under-resourced schools that may disproportionately rely on police intervention, as well as schools that are not adequately employing age-appropriate conflict resolution and de-escalation methods. Rising incidents of physical force in schools can be detrimental to students, potentially resulting in more disciplinary measures, the criminalization of common behaviors, and damage to their mental well-being and educational outcomes, particularly for vulnerable populations. These physical interactions risk significant physical injury to youth, fostering fear, damaging trust, and weakening confidence in public institutions. This bill doesn't prohibit the use of force in schools. Instead, it mandates that schools report all instances where physical force is used against students. This legislation aims to promote transparency regarding the lack of information on the frequency and nature of physical interactions between students, police officers, and school staff. School districts can use this information to allocate resources that enable schools to proactively adopt effective strategies and foster safer learning environments for all students. We urge your support on this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Webster. Please go ahead.
Buenas tardes al miembro comité. Mi nombre es Angie Morris, represento SEACE Camino Nevada. Vengo a ofrecer mi apoyo a la ley AB 420. Como madre, quisiera tener la tranquilidad de que mi hijo puede estar en un lugar seguro, que es en la escuela, en un aula de clases donde no estoy yo presente. No debería vivir con el miedo de que las personas que están a cargo de mi hijo cuando yo no puedo se conviertan en una posible amenaza. Esta ley es necesaria porque nos garantiza la responsabilidad, la protección y la seguridad que tienen nuestros hijos. Muchas gracias por su tiempo y gracias por oírme.
Gracias. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Emmy Miranda, EMYMIRANDA with Make the Road Nevada, and I will be translating Angie today. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Angie Morris, spelled ANGIEMORRIS, and I am a member of Make the Road Nevada. I am here today to express my full support for AB 420. As a mother, I want the peace of mind that my child is safe when he goes to school, especially when I can't be with him in the classroom. We shouldn't have to live with the fear that those who are supposed to protect our children could instead become a threat to them. AB 420 is a necessary step to ensure transparency and accountability when force is used against youth. This bill represents a commitment to safety, justice, and dignity for our students. I sincerely ask you to support this proposal. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to our voices.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda, and thank you, Ms. Morris. We have time for one more, because that was one testimony. We have time for one more in Carson City before we go to Las Vegas. Okay, then we will go to Las Vegas. I see 3 people there. Please state your name for the record. Yes. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Madai Zepeda, MADIZEPDA, and I'm a member of the Youth Power Project with Make the Road Nevada. This experience has deeply impacted me on a personal level. I no longer feel safe or trust in my school and the school police. What happened to me was wrong. I don't believe it was appropriate for male officers to use force against me, a female minor, especially knowing we don't have the same physical strength. I asked them to pull my shirt down, and instead they lifted it even further, exposing me. Even after I had calmed down, they continued using unnecessary force. When I got home, my back was in pain. I had asked my sister to check, and she saw marks where the officers had grabbed me and pinned me aggressively against the doors. It was humiliating, and it didn't have to happen that way. Before that, a teacher physically restrained me in a way that hurt. I was screaming and crying, begging him to let me go. But the more I resisted, the more he held on. My sister even yelled at him to stop, and it wasn't until a hall monitor stepped in that he had finally let me go. After that, more teachers surrounded me. I chose to calm down because I didn't want anyone else touching me. But even after I had calmed down, another teacher reached for me again. After everything that had just happened, I didn't want to be touched, and I reacted. That's when more teachers and then the police got involved. All of this started because of how the adults in that school chose to handle the situation with force instead of care. Now I struggle with the idea of going back to school, and I don't feel safe around my teachers or the school police. What they did made me feel violent and not protected. That's why I support AB 420. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before you leave, would you mind giving us your name? Well, we want to make sure and get it right for the record. And spell it out for us just one more time.
Madai Zepeda, MADAI, ZEPEDA.
Thank you so much, Ms. Medea, for sharing your story. We appreciate it. Please, who's next in Las Vegas?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz María Salgado y soy madre y estoy aquí apoyando a mi hija y apoyando a la ley AB 420. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Luz Maria Salgado. I'm here as a parent and I'm supporting my daughter, actually, in supporting this AB 420 law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado, and thank you for the interpretation. Would you mind giving us your name for the interpreter?
Yes, my name is Josefina Garcia.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garcia. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas? That's 2. Oh, there's someone that's sitting right there. Please go right ahead.
Yes,
Go
we
ahead.
have other people coming up.
Oh, yeah. We'll do 3 at a time. So we have time for one more right now before we go to the phone lines, and then we'll get back to
Uno
Las
más
Vegas.
antes de pasar al teléfono, cualquiera de ustedes. ¿Quién quiere ser? Uno. ¿Usted? Okay.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alejandro Ramos, miembro de Media de Rock Nevada.
Padre orgulloso con hijos en nuestras escuelas públicas.
Permítame. Good afternoon. My name is Alejandro Reynoso. Ramos. Perdón. I'm a parent here, and I'm very proud to have a child here in the school district.
Estoy aquí porque este tema me importa profundamente.
I'm here because I'm very interested in this topic.
Y también a muchas familias como la mía.
And there also are many other families just like mine.
Apoyo la propuesta de ley 420 porque nuestros hijos merecen estar seguros en las escuelas.
I support the AB 420 because our children actually deserve to be actually treated and be safe at the schools.
Para aprender, crecer y ser tratados con dignidad.
To learn, to grow, and be treated with dignity.
Padre debería preocuparse de que su hijo pueda ser lastimado o maltratado.
A parent actually shouldn't be concerned about his son or daughter being mistreated or injured.
Por las mismas personas que se supone que deben protegerlos.
By the people who are supposed to be there to protect them.
Como padre de habla hispana,
as a Spanish speaker parent,
sé que muchas familias en nuestra comunidad no reciben la información.
I know that a lot of the families in that community do not receive the information that is needed.
Que necesitan cuando algo pasa en la escuela.
When something happens at the school site.
Eso tiene que cambiar, necesitamos transparencia.
That needs to change. We need transparency.
Necesitamos rendición de cuentas.
We need people to actually be accountable.
Y necesitamos saber cuándo se está usando la fuerza como el gas pimienta.
And we need to know at what moment they're going to be using actually pepper spray.
Contra nuestros estudiantes.
Against our children.
Este proyecto de ley se trata de proteger a nuestros hijos y de asegurarnos.
This project is actually related to protect our children and to keep them safe.
De que ninguna voz, especialmente en comunidades como la mía,
to make sure that the voices of people like in my community
sea ignorada.
Are not being ignored.
Por favor, apoyen la propuesta de ley 420. Muchas gracias.
Please support the AB 420. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos, and thank you, Ms. Garcia. We'll go to the phone lines. Ms. Garcia, don't go away because I'm sure we'll be right back to Las Vegas. AVH, do we have any callers in support of AB 420?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 420, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's Mathildamiller, Government Relations Director of Native Voters Alliance Nevada, and we're in strong support of Assembly Bill 420. My husband is a first responder in Southern Nevada. In our household, we believe in public safety and officer safety. But most importantly, we believe in accountability and transparency. And to be clear, this bill is not an attack on officers at all. It's a call for transparency. It ensures that when force is used on children in schools, families, educators, and the public know what happened and whether or not policies are being followed. And let me be clear, if we can track which students are chronically absent and how they perform on standardized tests, and we can and should track how and when they're being subjected to pepper spray, tasers, or baton strikes. This is especially important for BIPOC communities where we've seen time and time again how disparities in discipline and policing show up in our schools. What this bill asks for is simple: to tell the public when force is used and whether anything needs to change. If nothing's wrong, then the data will show it. And if there is a pattern, then the district has a chance to fix it. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Katrin Ivanov, Ivano Frank, and it looks like this bill provides transparency. So from what I'm understanding so far for the bill, I am in support. And it's kind of interesting. I just testified in Judiciary Committee on a bill that would not allow law enforcement to go to schools and do their job. But yet we want transparency right now. It just doesn't, I don't know why the bill was not in this committee, since it has to do with schools. In any event, it just struck me very odd that pretty much simultaneously, you guys are passing bills that don't coincide with each other. One is you want transparency when law enforcement or the people at the school do something, which I am all for. Don't get me wrong, I am for that. But on the other hand, you're trying to teach kids not to follow law enforcement and laws. It's just confusing. In any event, I am happy to be able to support some of the bills you guys have. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much for the call. We'll take one more caller, and then no one here in Carson City will go back to Las Vegas.
Caller, please press *6 to unmute.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mary Wagner. That is MaryWagner. I'm a proud mother and member leader with Make the Road Nevada. I'm calling in today to express my strong support for AB 420. This bill would require the reporting of any use of pepper spray, taser, or force against youth. It's about accountability. If force is used, there should be a record of it, no exceptions. As a mother, this bill matters deeply to me. Our children deserve to feel safe, not just at home or at school, but in every space where they live and grow. AB 420 would help give families like mine peace of mind. It ensures that when something happens, it's not hidden or ignored. This bill protects our youth and helps build trust. I urge you to support AB 420 so that Nevada can be a place where all children are treated with care, transparency, and respect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. We'll go to Las Vegas whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Angel Meneses. I am a proud youth member of Make the Road, currently an 11th grade student. As a student with special needs, I often feel vulnerable in school settings. I am deeply concerned about the potential for CCSD school police using excessive force or violent force, especially now that they may be granted expanded authority to use pepper spray and possibly firearms. This makes me feel anxious and unsafe. I have personally witnessed CCSD school police using force against other students. It has left me feeling fearful for my safety and the safety of my peers. No student should feel this way at school. Please support Bill SB 420 to help protect students like me, create safer and more supportive school environments. And name is Angel, Angel.
Thank you, Mr. Meneses. Who's next in Las Vegas?
Sorry. Hello, my name is Flor Diaz. I'm a youth organizer with Make the Road Nevada. I'm reading a testimony for someone who couldn't join us today and is a community member. Hello, good morning. My name is Melanie, and I am a proud member of Youth Power Project, and I'm here today to share my firsthand experiences with the use of force in school. During my years in high school, I often witnessed students being treated unfairly and situations being handled inappropriately. One incident that stands out to me was a fight that broke out between a group of students. Teachers tried to manage the situation, but eventually called in school police. Instead of de-escalating the situation, officers used pepper spray on an entire group of students, including some who were simply bystanders, unaware of what was happening. I was among them. I remember the painful, burning sensation in my nose and eyes. We had to run outside to the nearest water source, a hose by the school, just to find relief. Many of us were coughing, crying, and in distress. In another instance, I saw two female students involved in a fight. The conflict escalated, and one of them was physically dragged away and pepper sprayed. These were minors. Experiences like this are traumatizing and leave lasting emotional scars. They can also create a sense of fear and resentment towards school police rather than trust and safety. These are just two incidents that I personally remember from my time at Valley. They are not isolated cases. They reflect a large pattern of how force is used in our schools and why we need change. So we urge you to support AB 420. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you leave, we just would you mind? We just want to make sure we have the record. Give us your name again, and then the name of the person who you read the statement for.
Yes. My name is Flor Diaz, Flordiaz,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I read the statement for Melanie, Melanie.
No last name for Melanie? It's okay if she didn't want to give it. We'll just go with Melanie. No problem. Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Diaz.
thank you.
We have one more in Las Vegas, and then we'll go back to the phone lines. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Ok. Hola, buenas tardes a todos.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone.
Mi nombre es Elizabeth Ortiz.
My name is Elizabeth Cortez.
Soy madre de 3 hijos y líder miembro de Make the Road Nevada.
I'm a parent of 3 children, and I'm a leader member of, I'm sorry, ¿cómo se llama la organización?
Make the Road Nevada.
Make the Road Nevada. Excuse me.
Apoyo firmemente el proyecto de ley AB 420.
I firmly support the AB 420, which is a law,
el cual
proposal.
requiere que los distritos escolares y las mesas directivas
which actually requires that the school districts and the board members
de escuelas charter
from charter schools
preparen y presenten públicamente informes detallados
prepare actually and present a full report with details
sobre el uso de la fuerza física
about the use of physical force
por parte de los oficiales de la policía escolar
from the officers from police school,
así como sobre otros asuntos relacionados
as well as other related thereto.
Como madre de familia,
as a mother,
pido por favor transparencia
I'm asking for transparency
e informes detallados
and with reports that are detailed
para garantizar
to warranty
confianza,
trust,
seguridad,
safety,
y el bienestar de mis hijos y todos los estudiantes.
and the well-being of my children as well as all the other students.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Portiz. We're going to go back to the phone lines. We have about 6 minutes left. Please go ahead when you're ready, AVH.
Thank you, Chair. We have 2 callers in the queue. One moment, please. Caller, please press *6 to unmute.
Good afternoon. My name is Angel Diaz, and the reason why I called is to show my support for this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Next caller.
One moment, Chair.
Hello.
Go ahead, caller.
My name's Emer. My name's Emer Cespedes Alvarado. IMERCESPEDES. I'm a student at UNLV and founder of Youth Voice of Nevada, and I'm calling in support of AB 420. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call. One more caller, AVH.
Chair, we have no additional callers in support at this time.
No more callers? Okay, back to Las Vegas. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas who would like to testify in support? Please come forward at this time. Okay, please go ahead when you're ready.
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Isabella Badina Ortiz, and I am a member of Youth Power Project, and I support AB 420, and I urge you to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina Ortiz. Okay, that will end us right on time. It will end our support testimony. And now we will go to opposition testimony. Anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas in opposition to Assembly Bill 420? Seeing none, AVH, we will go to the phone lines. Any opposition callers?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 420, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go to neutral testimony. Any neutral testimony here in Carson City or in Las Vegas? Seeing no one come forward, we will go to the phone lines. AVH?
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 420, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. That ends our testimony time. Mr. Orozco, would you like to have closing comments?
Noel Orozco for the record. Thank you so much again for allowing us to present this bill, and we really urge you to support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This will close the hearing on the Assembly Bill 420, and we're on to the last item on our agenda, and that is public comment. If we have anyone here in Carson City who would like to make public comment, please come forward at this time. These are for items not on the agenda and that are in the purview of our committee. Seeing none, anyone in Las Vegas who would like to make public comment, please come forward. Okay, seeing none. AVH, any callers for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. To provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no public comment callers at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Long committee, but we knew going in it'd be two big bills. So thank you. We will see you here Wednesday at 1 o'clock.